That's my ID, Eileen Slattery. And I'm going to record my application 2, which is about rehabilitation of criminals after they are released from prison. Mostly material from Chapter 8. According to dictionary.com, rehabilitation means to reestablish the good reputation of a person, one's character or name, to restore formally to former capacity and standing, rank, rights, or privileges. Now, imprisonment is necessary in order to first confine and separate the criminal from the public. This is done for the safety of the victim and for the punishment of the criminal. The second reason there needs to be imprisonment is for the hopeful rehabilitation of the man or woman who is charged with the crime. The idea is to change their viewpoint, and this has been done successfully by more than a few people. However, the stigma that attaches itself to the man or woman who is now labeled an ex-con and should never be trusted follows them many times for the rest of their life and is one of the biggest reasons for the high rate of recidivism. Now, labeling theory, or as some call it, social reaction theory, espouses the idea that society responds to certain people in a negative fashion due to their history, even though their debt to society was fully paid. For example, a young man is incarcerated due to a drug charge. His case goes to trial. He's given 5 years in prison, and while he's there, the young man learns a skill that he wishes to pursue when he is released. And the day finally comes that he's allowed to go home and to start his new life. But he's turned away time after time by those who know about his history, by employers, by people that he knows as family, even by some of his friends. And the doors of opportunity for this young man begin to shut, and he realizes that his idea of starting fresh and putting the past behind him is not going to be quite as easy because the people in his town just won't allow it. He's labeled an ex-con, and that has become who he is. In time, his frustration turns him into the person everyone is accusing him of being, and he gives up on the dreams he had. The reaction of the community to the ex-con is what would be called tagging. And tagging is a term that was coined by Frank Tannenbaum, who is mentioned in our textbook, Criminology Today, on page 191. Now, Tannenbaum speaks on the problem of how people have trouble relating to the criminal, even if the societal debt was paid for. They blame him. They look at the crime as being evil, but now the thought of evil is slowly transferred unto the criminal itself, so that no matter how he might try in life and no matter what the rehabilitation, he is now thought of in his community as being evil. If the cycle of tagging continues, the perpetrator becomes what he has been labeled as, and so he ends up committing more crimes. There is an enormous amount of shaming entailed with the arrest and the incarceration process. At what point, though, can the convict become someone who gets another chance at life? Now, in our textbook, Criminology Today by Frank Schmaliger, there is a discussion on reintegrative shaming, and this is on pages 194 to 195. And John Braithwaite describes results from a study in 1997 in which he researched the effects of stigmatic shaming on the criminal. It was understood by Braithwaite that stigmatic shaming only increased divisions within the community. The stigma that attached to the ex-con broke down the moral bond between himself and others. Braithwaite's idea of reintegrative shaming seemed to strengthen that bond. A settlement is first attempted between the criminal himself and those that were wronged. He is given the opportunity to discuss his behavior, explain why he did what he did. And he does this with the ones that he had faulted. Then the idea is to apologize for what he had committed and also to offer restitution to the victims of the crime. Now, although according to our text there is only anecdotal proof that this type of thing works, that there is an effective program that uses this, the results do seem positive from those that have reported using it, not just from the side of law enforcement, but also from the criminals themselves. I don't believe this type of program is going to work for a serious criminal, people who have murdered for the thrill of it, people who have raped, people that molest children. Those types of people, I feel, really need to stay confined. There are many juveniles, though, that I feel could be helped with this type of confrontation. And going to court is a different experience than having to sit down and look into the eyes of the victim of your crime and actually speak to that person or persons and admit you're wrong and then ask for forgiveness. I'm quite sure that the reintegrative shaming is not for all convicts, but I do feel that it stands to be a good theory, and it would be nice to see it used with first-time offenders and especially with juveniles. Thank you.